Alright, hey guys, I wanted to make a new video on how to export curved surfaces from Fusion 360 into DXF. So a lot of my old, or all of my old designs took an aircraft and I had to model it all with mostly flat surfaces in order to be able to, export it to something that I could laser cut. And for curved surfaces like that, like this canopy here, I used my old video. I used a technique that I showed off in my old video that Andres taught me to export those curved surfaces, but those are kind of approximations and they weren't too great. They did take a lot of effort. So in the comments of my last, or one of my previous videos, 3D Techie taught me or showed me a quick way, and I decided a faster way to export curved surfaces, so I decided to make a quick video on it. You're going to need the Meshmixer tool. I guess I'll toss a link to it in the description below. It's kind of its own program. So to export a curved surface, you're obviously going to need to start with one of your own curved surfaces. I made this one using a loft. So I basically defined what the cross-section of the aircraft should look like as such. Then I created that loft, and that's how I got this curved surface. It's going to compute, I guess. Yep. Then, in order to export this, I'm going to go to the end of the timeline. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into the model environment. I'm going to split body. What I'm doing here, I'm going to hit the fuselage actually. Let me activate the fuselage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split the fuselage into smaller parts. I'm just going to export a little bit of the nose. If you try to flatten out the entire fuselage, all the curves, especially towards the back and the rear, don't export very well flat. You're going to obviously need to cut it up in several pieces and flatten them individually. So I'm going to cut my fuselage into several pieces. I'm going to take fuselage and I'll select one of these planes, split like that. Then the aircraft is obviously symmetrical across the front. So if I can zoom out, yeah. Symmetrical across the front, so I can also split the fuselage down the middle. That's gonna help us get a little bit, help us get a better, a better approximation of the curved surface. The flatter the surface you export or try, the flatter the surface you try to flatten, the more accurate it's gonna be. So I'm gonna split that again. Alright, so now I'm going to basically export or flatten that little section. Let me turn off this plane. It's kind of getting in the way. Yeah, I'm going to export this curved surface, and then that'll kind of unflatten itself into kind of like a C shape. And once we laser cut this shape, you can fold it back up into this curved shape and make a very slick and very curvy front of the nose, as opposed to something that's clearly made of a composite of flat surfaces. Alright, but moving on though, we need to have a mesh to export, so I'm going to go into the patch environment. I'm going to unstitch this body, and what that basically does is it breaks apart that solid body into a whole bunch of surfaces that defined it. I'm going to find the surface that corresponds to the actual curved surface that I care about, right? Because even though I have that back surface available and that surface available, those aren't gonna actually be a part of the outer airframe that I'm trying to make out of foam. So I care about this one. I'm going to save that as an STL. Let's just do curve one. I'm gonna save that. Then I'm gonna pop into the mesh mixer environment. I'm going to import rather. Hit curve 1 and boom. Now I just have the that mesh in the Meshmixer environment. I'm going to hit the edit here. I'm going to unwrap it. All the default settings are good. We hit accept and bam, that's our flat profile, if you will, that we can just laser cut. And if once we laser cut it and we curl it up, it'll turn back into this. And obviously you can put together an entire curved airframe from just kind of making your entire airframe out of like strips, if you will. For the larger sections that have more uniform curve to it, you can do it in large sections. But for the nose, I'm doing it in smaller. I'll do it in smaller sections, so it's a lot more accurate. When it folds up, it'll be it will kind of stick itself onto the airframe a lot cleaner. But anyways, going to here, I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and so all I have left is my little flat profile here. Let's hit File. I'm going to export to SVG. I'm going to make sure that says Inkscape. You need to change it to an Inkscape SVG, otherwise it doesn't import into Fusion properly. To export that, I'm going to call that Ink1, save. Then I'm going to come into Fusion 360. Can't go straight to AutoCAD yet. I've got a blank environment here. I hit Insert, Insert SVG, select the SVG file, Ink1. I'm also just going to select any random plane. It'll import. It should import somewhere on there. Just make sure you look below, because sometimes it does get off-centered a bit. Then, oops. I just like it over there. Great, and now just hit OK, and now we've got a profile in Fusion 360. And once we have a profile in Fusion 360, that's when we can export DXF. So I'll do DXF1, save. Then I can come into AutoCAD. So these are my plans for my F86, my older version. So you're just gonna open up a new one. Actually, I don't need to do that. I'll go straight into open up the DXF. And now that we have this in DXF, I can do what I do always. I just, once I have exported DXF, copy it into the main file, and now you can start playing around with these, stitching them together to create your aircraft plans just as you would have with these rectangular blocky ones. Hope that was useful for you guys, and have fun designing aircraft with curvy surfaces now instead of just flat ones. Thanks. See ya.